Hey, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. Here we are at it again, minus Revis. So it's the Three Musketeers this morning for Chop It Up. We've got Michelle
Hey.
hanging out in her home office, Barry,
Yep.
our mobile correspondent this morning,
Yeah.
and me.
Barry Zoyer is our mobile correspondent.
Barry's our man in the street.
Yeah, I'm always in the street for one reason or another.
Right. It's easy to begin the show with a little bit of humor. I guess it's something to help cope with the more serious drama that's unfolding across America today
Yeah.
regarding the George Floyd tragedy. The thing that gets me about it is, hey,
You don't have a dog.
I don't. I guess someone does. And they're very close. Anyway, even the dogs are upset. The thing that gets me is this. You know, I sat in prison all this time watching the world develop and seeing all these cameras put everywhere, you know, traffic cameras, cell phone cameras, body cameras. And I convinced myself that a lot of the stuff that people were getting away with was going to have to stop. You know,
Yeah.
that it was going to have to stop. And it doesn't. It just keeps going. It's like a cycle, and things happen, and then people get emotionally charged and they want to do something right then and there, instant gratification. Let's stand up. Let's do this. Let's make a protest. Let's walk the streets. And then 2 weeks later, they all go back to their normal lives until the next time it happens,
Exactly.
you know? And I got frustrated, I guess, over the weekend, and I was wanting to wait. And then this morning at like 5 o'clock, I said, fuck it, I ain't waiting anymore. And I shot a video and posted it where I pretty much asked people to vote for individuals that are going to bring change. You know, we need legal change. We need legislative action. We need to be protected. We need penalties, stiffer penalties for specific crimes committed by law enforcement. You know, and there's all these excuses about how hard it is to convict. Well, make it easy. Make it easy. Streamline it. You know, streamline it. Just like it's easy right now to be convicted of possession of a firearm. Whether they catch you with the firearm, a witness describes the gun. You know, if there's evidence that a gun was used in the commission of a felony, you get possession of a firearm attached. So how hard can it be to say this guy's got a badge, this guy's in handcuffs, and now he's beat up, or now he's dead? I mean, it's pretty simple. If you're alive when you enter custody and you die from something besides natural causes, then somebody did something to you.
Well, that's the annoying part in this is they're trying to say it was due to heart conditions and all this other stuff. It's like, well, you know, I don't know about you, but if somebody's sitting on my neck for 8 minutes, it might, you know, kind of exacerbate some of my conditions.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so it was a heart condition that was exacerbated by the stress.
Something
Yeah.
like it. Yeah.
The same heart condition they had been living with for years, but now you put your knee on his neck and you stop the blood flow coming through to his brain. So there's a lot of stuff. So he had a brain problem too then.
Yeah.
And then it's also, you're in that situation, you're dumping adrenaline into your system. You know, that right there is going to affect your heart. Like, come on.
And what part of the cop's job made it necessary for him to sit on this guy's back after he was handcuffed? I mean, all that was missing was the cop yelling, stop resisting to a man who was unconscious. That's all that was missing.
Well,
Yeah.
I find it interesting.
That make it worse. That make it worse because that just shows that he was just being careless for no reason.
Yeah.
Usually they use the excuse of stop resisting. He didn't use the excuse. He just did what he did.
What I find interesting is how all of a sudden his wife left him. Like, she didn't know he was an asshole long before that.
No. Now everybody knows. Yeah, everybody knows he's an asshole now. It wasn't the private asshole that got her; it was the public asshole.
Yeah. So I really have nothing for her either. Like, come on. And he'd been in trouble for a whole bunch of other excessive uses of force. I think he killed 2 other people. So this is not a new behavior.
And see, and that's another thing that kills me. Well, I hate to say it kills me in this situation, but another thing that bothers me is people tend to reveal themselves over time. This guy was telling all his superiors what type of piece of shit he is by the stuff that he was getting involved in, and they kept overlooking it. And I mean, it's easy to see that this cop probably took their overlooking his transgressions as affirmation that he was doing a good job.
Yeah.
You know, when I used to play basketball, my job at the beginning of the game was to find out the threshold of the referee, what he was going to let me do and not do. The first foul I used to get was just to see how far I could go. And then I could gauge myself, you know, well, he'll let me do this, he won't let me do that. So you have these guys exhibiting the same behavior in their job, these cops pushing the envelope. Let's see how far I can go. Let's see how far I can go. And look how far he went. And he told you who he was before this.
Yeah.
Repeatedly. And these guys are not drafted. They volunteer and they take an oath to protect and serve. And I said this morning in the other video, and I'm going to say it again. It is a profound loss anytime somebody gets killed, you know, and that may sound hypocritical coming from me. The truth is, God damn it, I know about it a little more than most guys, because this is something that I deal with. You know, this is something that I have to acknowledge on an everyday basis. And more than just killing George Floyd, these motherfuckers are killing America. What does America stand for? You know? And at what point, at what point do we say this isn't the America that I want? In any situation, isn't it important that you have to see what you're dealing with, whether it be a girlfriend, a job, even a friendship? You know, you have to recognize the attributes of the people you're involved with. And at some point, you have to know them for who they are and like them or dislike them for who they are. If you're in a relationship with a chick or you with a man and you're in love with your idea of what he may be and he's not that person, well, this love is not going to last very long.
No.
You know, and I don't know if I'm in love with America or the America that I want, because this is not the America that I want.
Well, this is the way that I look at America. The place has always been fucked up, but we always go towards the ideal. That's what I like about it. We're always looking for the ideal. We're always working towards that ideal. But I mean, from the beginning, I mean, we came in, we massacred a bunch of people, we enslaved a bunch of other people. We didn't give people the right to vote until people basically rioted in the streets in the 60s. Like, it's just been constant. This isn't anything new. I think when we look back and we say this America, it's because we didn't have video cameras and we didn't have people apprising us of these situations. So, like they always say, history is written by the victors, not the underdog. So,
be careful.
So by the time that story got
I'm just saying, be careful. They say Hitler said that. When Hitler was ordering all the atrocities during the Second World War, it is purported that when people said and questioned him, you know, what are they going to say about this when they find out? And he says, the victors write the history books. So he was saying that they'll win and they'll write it how they want to.
Yeah, but he didn't win.
Didn't win.
There have been a few stories. There have been a few stories here and there, but they would have controlled the mass agenda.
Yep. And the other tale would have been the radical one. How dare you tell that other tale? Yeah. Like, 2 of my favorite books is People's History of the United States and Lies My Teacher Told Me. And those are just basically books that give the other side. They're like, hey, this is another thing. Right. And what's really cool is, like, people get mad about it, but revisionist history, where we learn new facts, where we pull out new things and we throw away, misinformed or the victor's story about things, and we put it in actual, objective reality.
Yeah.
But people have a problem with revisionist history, whatever.
Right.
Like reading the discovery of America by Christopher Columbus versus the version by the Native Americans.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's like, have you ever heard the saying about if you want to know if the cat is evil or not, you can't ask the mouse.
Yeah.
Because the mouse is going to say the cat is the worst thing ever, and the cat's just going to say, "Hey, man, I'm hungry." You know.
Exactly. But yeah, it's very interesting. Mm-hmm. It's just very interesting all about that, like that they can write whatever they want. And I think that's why we have this loving ideal. And I think that's part of our public school education. Our education system at all is to, write this narrative and have this kind of nationalistic pride in our country. I mean, that's how you get good soldiers.
Sure. But I guess
that's how you get compliant people.
Right. But I guess it just doesn't make good cops.
No. Yeah.
Because they don't know they don't know how to deal with the mental aspect, the emotional aspect. And they don't have any training for it, because if you test them for, me and my brother was talking about this because he worked for the BSO for a long time. And if he said give them tests and psychological tests, stuff like that, they would say, but you're in a testing situation.
Yeah.
So you're going to, of course, give them your best personality.
Sure.
But now once you're outside of the testing situation, and this dude over here who don't control your paycheck says, F you, now that's a whole different creature.
Mm-hmm.
And once you roll around with that badge for a little while and realize that, hey, I'm powerful. Nobody better not talk back to me. I got absolute authority. And that's what they think.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How dare you question me? Officer, can you tell me what? Shut up. Huh?
Yeah. And there's an overall fear of the police because the police have no fear of repercussion.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Look, before I left prison, there was a mass push, a big movement to put video cameras in all the places that staff and inmates interact.
Yeah.
And with the belief that the cameras would bring about a heightened level of accountability. Right?
Yeah.
And then when I was in the county jail, we saw on the news from Everglades, I think it was a colonel that was abusing inmates who were handcuffed in front of the camera in the Sally Port.
Yeah, in the Sally Port.
So the question that has to be asked is, did the colonel forget that the cameras were there, or did the colonel believe it doesn't matter? I'm the colonel, I can do what I want.
I think it's a mix of both.
I think a little bit of both. But he was that type, like, I'm the colonel, I can do it. But that's why they did it in the hallway, because some of the cameras didn't reach the hallways, but that one just happened to reach the hallway. They forgot to go behind the officer station by the laundry room where it doesn't reach.
Oh, so basically he had his idea of what he wanted to do, and he just failed in the execution.
Yeah, it was just too many people. And guess what? He would beat them up. For dudes those are all the dudes that were like in other dorms, violating, going over to the holler at their homeboys and stuff like that while the yard was closed. And so what they did is lock all the dorms down, go in there and catch all the people. And he just threw the hissy fit about it.
Huh. So he was personally trying to stomp out crime.
Yeah.
Apparently
he was saying that the gang members was going to the other dorm with the gang brothers doing stuff and then leaving.
Right.
But they had cameras in the dorm, so if they did go in the dorm and do something, they had them on tape.
Right. Yeah.
That's craziness.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. As they feel like, and I think it's a third factor too. So they forget about it, they think they're above it, and then you have the third where they think it's going to be erased, it's going to get lost.
Yeah. And I guess it's hard to overcome the inertia. I guess there's behavioral inertia, just like there's any other kind, and it's hard for them to change something that has been for so long.
The status quo. And that's something that I feel like in corrections is they don't address. Like they just say, don't do this behavior anymore, but they don't teach staff to put in alternate behaviors. So in a lot of the staff's mind, it's either you have this rigid form of discipline or utter chaos, because they're not teaching them like that different way of approaching a situation.
Yeah.
And that's a lack of training.
And and how you train those people now, remember they don't, I mean, not saying that they're not any smart correction officer, but the average correction officer is just somebody just looking for a paycheck and some good benefits.
Yeah, looking for a job.
And they really don't care about the job. They don't care about the care part of the care, custody, and control. Mm-hmm. All they want is the control part and the custody part, because they don't want you to get away. But they don't. The care part is out the window.
And what's interesting is, I always come from the viewpoint of having worked at Madison, and I really liked Madison. I really liked how they handled things. And when we became a psych camp, like a lot of the security staff would come and they would ask me how to handle stuff, which I really appreciated. And they took a lot of the guidance that I gave and a lot of the ideas on how to handle certain situations, and they actually applied them. So it's not for a lack of wanting the knowledge.
Right.
It's just not given. I would give them stuff to read. I would give them different interventions to try. I would teach them how to deal with certain types of issues and different types of using different types of interventions. And it made for a better even confinement unit, because a lot of the problems come from confinement.
Yeah.
So
there are I guess what you could call strange parallels with prison and the free world, because prison is a society, just like out here is. And some of the most severe riots that I have seen stemmed from abuse by officers, physical abuse, jumping on an inmate, stuff like that. And it's the same out here, but the riot is just an emotional response. That's what it is. And even then, in prison, during a riot, you'll have guys that have a very strong opinion, a strong emotional opinion about the incident that happened, like the abuse by the officer. Then you have other guys that just pretty much have a constant irritation about the officers. They're going to participate. And then you got other guys that are going into the dorms and breaking into inmates' lockers that are out there participating in the riot. So you got an inmate gets beat up. Several inmates go out there mad about the inmate that got beat up, and then they're fighting with the police. And then other inmates are fighting with other inmates because they use that as an opportunity to just, jump on some other inmates. And then you got guys in the dorm busting into people's lockers. So, I guess they get so mad about an inmate getting beat up by cops. And it's not just a regular inmate either. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's an old man on a cane. One of the worst I saw was an old guy on a walker got pretty much aggressively dealt with by some officers, and that started a whole shitload of trouble at Henry back in 1989.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And then you got guys that are so mad that this inmate got beat up by the cops that they run around and bust in their other inmates' lockers, because they're thinking, well, these inmates are going to get locked up for being in a riot, so I might as well steal their stuff because they're not going to know it was me anyway. So
the opportunists, they're just looking for the opportunity.
They're looting.
Yeah,
they're the looters. They're looting, even in prison. They're looting.
And then you just have people that just enjoy the excitement.
Yeah.
And so they participate just so that way they can participate in violence. You just have those type too.
Over the weekend down here, they did a... Go ahead.
I said the ones that just like the excitement, they run around without a cause, just striking out at everything because they just caught up in the moment.
Yeah, they're like, yes, my inner beast can come out, and they're just cutting. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Down here over the weekend, I think it was Friday or Saturday night, a place called Bayshore, upscale shopping. They did a group of guys did a smash and grab on a jewelry store, and ran off with a lot of the stuff, the sparkly stuff, And you got to ask yourself, well, did the guy running the jewelry store, was he involved in what happened to George Floyd? And obviously the answer is no. So then you think, well, maybe it's like Robin Hood, and they're going to get all this stuff and send George Floyd's family some of the money. And the answer to that is no, they're not doing that either. But they were just so damn mad at that jewelry that they had to go in there and make sure they did something to it.
Yeah, because that jewelry represents the capitalistic society.
Now that is a legitimate thing for some of the rioting. However, in this particular case, that would be a 0. Because you see people that they go in and steal just the dumbest stuff. And then they just dump it. Like, it's just an act of just, destruction. They don't want it. They don't want to keep it. They just want to destroy.
This? Yesterday, they're showing all these protesters that were bucking the curfew, right? And I see people walking by the news cameras like this. And I'm thinking, well, isn't that counterproductive? Isn't part of being in a protest the desire to be seen?
No.
And to show that you personally stand for a cause.
I've been in protests before. It is not, for me at least, I don't care to be seen. For me, it's a show of numbers. It's a show of solidarity. Like, I went to the Women's March in Washington, D.C. That was to show numbers. That's to show, like, hey, and it's not as a personal glorification, at least for me, it's not a personal glorification. Mine is an outside show the numbers, show the beast. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
So I would be like this too. I'd be like, you don't need to know who I am. You just need to know I'm part of this.
On a good note, did you see yesterday during the protest, some guys that came up and tried to smash the window out of the CVS, and the protesters linked arms and wouldn't allow them to get to the store?
Oh, I didn't see it that way. Yeah, but that's cool.
Yeah, that was a nice little twist, to show that, hey, man, we out here on the cause. Don't defeat our cause.
Yeah, don't corrupt it. Don't corrupt it.
Yeah. Don't take a nice movement and turn it into something that it wasn't meant to be. And they were saying that all the people they arrested Miami-Dade on Saturday, say half of them wasn't even from the state of Florida, but they were down here just outside.
The agitators.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, that's always been like that you have out-of-state people coming in. I mean, even when you had everything back in the 60s, you had people coming from the north down into the south. So that's not too abnormal when you're having major protests. But how many of them are just sent in as people to make this and discredit this?
Right.
So there's that aspect of it. How many are legit? How many are here to just cause problems? And not good problems. When I say problems, I mean where they are just making it where it's not a valid protest anymore.
Right.
They're making it invalid.
Dilute the cause.
But they're bullshit.
Oh, did you see the one that circulated on social media? I'll probably send y'all the link if you're not. It was this white male that was standing out his truck with a bow and arrow pointing at the protesters, and they came and attacked him. A bunch of white people and women, and he said on the news, yeah, it was 2 black African Americans that beat me through my window of my truck.
He just mad he got beat by white people. That's all that is. Because he expects some solidarity, and he was just silly mistaken.
And the crazy part is,
that's how people go to prison.
And the crazy part is, it's always that way. When the woman, when you find out that she murdered her own kids, in the carjacking or whatever, she screams that some black guy carjacked me when she drove her own car into the water to drown her kids. They, you know what I mean?
They just had another one in Miami where the lady lost her autistic kid. Yeah. She said some black guy ran away with the kid. Turned out once again, she murdered her kid.
Right. They always want to blame it on the black. And nowadays, like for the last 4 or 5 years, all your television programs, the bad guys are always Muslim, some kind of way. It doesn't matter.
That aspect now.
Yeah, that's the new thing. So, I mean, I guess that's going to trickle down, and the boogeyman and all these boogeyman crimes are going to be Muslims before long.
Yeah. Oh, I saw a terrible one with this lady. She was walking a dog, and the dog wasn't on a leash. And so I guess the guy might have been scared of dogs or whatever. So a black guy, he said, so he was telling her, hey, you're supposed to have that dog on a leash, this and that there. So the lady started screaming at him, and he was like, they went back and forth. And he was like, yeah, you got it, but you're supposed to have a dog on a leash. She called the cops and said, hey, this black dude trying to rob me.
Yep.
And fortunately, he recorded the whole thing, and showed it to cops. But just think of how scary that'd be if he had not recorded that. He was going to prison for robbery.
Yeah, and with her, there's few interesting things. First off, that was a bird watcher who like graduated from like Yale or something like that. Like you got the wrong one. And then on top of it, you also had and this is important, this is an important part, this is a liberal white female. So this shows that even in liberal, and this is the whole thing, is like, why don't black people trust white people? Blah, 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 especially when they're progressive. Because these people exist. She's supposed to be some liberal progressive person. And she still did that shit.
Now, do you think that she's sitting there after the fact saying, all these people lie on blacks and get away with it, and I got to pick a black guy who went to Yale?
Or you know one that was smart enough to have a phone and record now.
Yeah. Of all the black people for me to frame, I had to pick this one guy.
Why can I sit in the prison for 15, 16 years and what the hell about my business?
now here it is, I might go to jail. What the hell?
Her life, like, she's gotten fired, or her dog is now given back to the rescue. Like, she's being run out of town. Like,
because that's really foul, man. I mean, not only do you destroy this person's life, whoever they are, but you destroy their family structure, you know, the relationships, everything. And they don't realize all of the trickle effect that happens when you just allowing this one person. You're not just hurting that one person, you're hurting the whole community.
It boils down to them just dehumanizing the issue. You know, I was having a conversation with somebody a couple days back, and about how they want things to be a certain way and applied to them a certain way and not to everybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I try to explain to them that that's insanity, because whatever I say I want for me, I have to say I want for everybody, because how can I only want it for me? And a lot of people just refuse to see it that way. You know, they want it how they want it for them, and let everybody else do whatever. Yeah.
And I found that to be so true, is that most people are like so hypocritical. They're like, man, they don't like this person for this reason or another, but they have the same attributes, and they'll turn around and do the same thing. I'm like, well, hold on.
You don't hate, you don't dislike that somebody's doing it. You dislike somebody else is doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's that, and there's just where, you know, there's these parts of yourself in terms of like the mental health part of it, is there's these parts of yourself that you don't want to accept and deal with. So you then project it onto people that have a similar quality that you hate in yourself. So instead of taking ownership and fixing your shit, you instead project it onto other people, so you don't have to deal with it. You don't have to challenge that ugly part in yourself. It's a very, 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 very poor coping skill. It's a very poor coping mechanism.
Yeah.
It's how to deal with disconnect.
I love the people who say, man, I hate people who gossip about other people. He always gossiping about somebody. Okay, so now what are you doing right now? You telling me about it? Because you have to go in and saying, hey, man, I don't like this about you. You telling me, so that means you a gossip monger too.
Yeah.
I want to go back to that whole thing that we started talking about when we were talking about the push right now, where everybody's so active and how that's going to die out. Yeah. And like one of the things, that part aggravates me, but then I always have to remember that there are lots of roles that lots of people play. And so sometimes those people are a catalyst for all the other people that are going to be in it for the long haul. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and see, it's the same thing in prison, right? Guys who participate in the riot, it's just an emotional burst. The people who bring change are the ones that file the grievances and have the patience and the persistence to take that grievance and file a lawsuit, and then take that lawsuit to trial. And that's what society needs right here, right now, is people that are going to be in it for the long haul, that are going to stay focused enough for when the next election comes to start pushing an agenda that's going to bring about change. The thing that gets me more and more is when I hear the excuse about how hard it is to prosecute these crimes. You know, if you can call it a crime when you describe it, change the law. Make it easier to prosecute. Make it easier. You know, refine it where it's a specific thing. Like I was saying before, they have laws that deal with child abuse. They have laws that deal with elderly abuse. They have laws that deal with almost every kind of abuse that we face except the abuse by law enforcement. There's so many laws. Every state has battery on a Leo to stop you, to say, wow, it's a really serious thing if I push this officer. Let me not do that. You know? So we need protection. We need battery by a Leo. We need attempted murder by a Leo. We need assault on a restrained individual. Simple elements to demonstrate to the jury and to the prosecutor. This man, this woman was in handcuffs. This man, this woman was struck. Period. Make it easy.
And what I find interesting as well is how they go on and on about how Leos are scared. They, but it's like, you should have training on how to deal with that fear. And it's strange to me that the expectation is the public, who has no training, is supposed to be better behaved than the law enforcement that is supposed to have this training. That's supposed to be able to work through their adrenaline and be able to stay calm in tough situations. But it's the opposite.
Keep in mind that these are jobs that were volunteered for. When I was in prison, and we would, Barry, you know this, we'd see an officer who acted like it was such a hard thing that he was doing in prison. And I mean, let's paraphrase the notorious B.I.G. Don't be mad. UPS is hiring. I mean, if you don't like your job, get a different one. You know?
Exactly.
You can. Walmart is hiring. 7-Eleven is hiring. You don't have to be a cop. If it's that hard, put your badge down. Put your gun down. But then, then you'll be a regular person, and I guess that's something that they don't want.
No, they want the power and everything, but they want to be able to use it with impunity. And then fall back on justification that, hey, I was in fear for my life. So that's okay. So if I'm a timid person and I walk around, I'm scared of, so I could just start attacking people anytime they get close to me on the sidewalk because I was afraid.
Yeah, right.
Barry, that's my MO. What are you complaining about?
Yeah, afraid of what could happen. I mean, listen, what do you think? I really believe that Waldo is afraid that these geese are going to end up jumping on him one day.
I'm telling you.
So he's got to do something about it.
He's got to. And to go back to real, they did what was it, the Stanford prison study where they put like two groups of students, one were the police, one were just regular. And by like the end, like it had to do with like the glasses, the uniform, they're beating the hell out of their fellow students.
Yes.
Exactly.
It is a natural propensity to abuse authority, especially when there's a lack of training. When you just put somebody in charge, you know, I'm in charge because I'm supposed to be. Do what I say.
Exactly. And when I know that there's no consequences, I don't even have to pay for my own legal defense because I got this big, powerful union who's gonna back me and pay for my stuff. And then, and if I do get pushed it too far, I will get paid leave while my attorneys take care of this stuff. And while my union puts pressure on it, and that's the whole thing. Most of it political, because the union puts so much pressure on people because, okay, we got a million members, you know what I'm saying? So there's a million voters, and that's all politicians see. So they try to appease them. Well, that's why they never legislate anything. And they donate a lot of money to certain people. And that's why they never legislate anything that, like you said, we're putting in place for abuse of law by law enforcement. You know what I'm saying? Or attempted murder by law enforcement.
I mean, the PBA should support legislation that's going to bring about a change, because you got to look at it where all the cops that resisted are the cops that want to do wrong anyway. Because if they don't want to do wrong, if they want to do right, they're going to want laws to support that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Only the abusive cops are going to want to stop abusive cop laws.
And it will stop the fear in the neighborhood of the cops, and then they won't have to be scared, and we won't have to be scared. So now it's everybody walking around in fear, so there's gonna be nothing but emotional reactions, and everybody's gonna start lashing out at each other because everybody walking around scared, even though they don't want got the guns, but everybody's scared.
Yeah. Well, we're getting down to 2 minutes. Michelle, you want to give them the business?
All right. So if you like this video and you like the content that was in it, please like and subscribe, and of course share. Also, if you would like to reach out to any one of us, we have our contact information in the About section. Please do. Also, if you're having any issues within the Department of Corrections and want some guidance on writing grievances and getting those things addressed or redressed, whatever you want to say it, you can also hit us up about that. And last but not least, there's something that I am forgetting. What am I forgetting? Or did I hit it all?
I think you pretty much hit it all. The most important thing about issues within the DOC are resolution. That's what is necessary. If you have a problem, if you feel that there are rules that are being misinterpreted, misapplied, please reach out. Let us help you address that. Let us help you resolve your issue. That's really what it's all about.
All right. And so, bye, guys.
Yep. See you later.
See you later.